Greetings, my name is Mary and I want to share my personal story with you. I live with my father-in-law now. I was once married to Brian, the man I deeply loved. We dreamed of a perfect life together. However, life took an unexpected turn. Our marriage, which we hoped would be filled with love, ended up being the opposite. I experienced a great betrayal, not just from Brian, whom I loved dearly, but also from my mother-in-law. Today, I will share this journey with you. It's a tale of happy moments and sorrow, of love lost, and discovering my own strength. We had just married, and were starting our lives together. I valued my independence, so we lived in my own house. My parents lived abroad. I came to Canada to study and work. I got a good job and saved up to buy my house. After marrying, Brian moved in with me. His parents were in a different state, so we mostly connected through occasional visits or calls. One evening, while relaxing with coffee, Brian's phone rang. It was Sandra, my mother-in-law. I suggested Brian put the call on speaker so I could join the conversation. "Hello, son. Please, can you come over?" Sandra sounded urgent. "Mom, what's wrong?" Brian asked. "Your dad, Henry, he collapsed. We're at the hospital now. He needs surgery," Sandra explained. Shocked, I wondered why she hadn't mentioned Henry's ill health before. Sandra, clearly distressed, asked for our help. Henry was dear to me, so we were really concerned. We assured Sandra we'd be there soon. After hanging up, we booked our tickets and prepared to leave. Brian was worried. "Don't worry, Brian," I comforted him. "We'll get through this together." The next day, we arrived at the hospital. Sandra was there, anxious. Seeing us, she broke down in tears. We reassured her that everything would be okay. After consulting with the doctor about the surgery, Sandra inquired about our savings. Brian was concerned about the cost, but I reassured him that I had savings to cover it. This was the beginning of a challenging chapter in my life, filled with unexpected twists and emotional trials. We were committed to ensuring Henry's recovery after the surgery. The procedure went smoothly, but Henry still needed time and care to fully recover. The doctor advised us to look after him for a few months. Once discharged, we brought Henry home. Sandra, grateful for our support, thanked us, acknowledging she couldn't have managed alone. We assured her of our continued support and planned to leave the next day. However, our departure was delayed by an unexpected turn of events. Sandra suddenly fainted. Panicking, we tried to revive her. Thankfully, she came around after a short while but appeared weak and stressed. She expressed her doubts about managing Henry's care in her condition. Brian and I were concerned. We contemplated staying longer or hiring help, but the idea of entrusting Henry's care to a stranger didn't sit well with us. We were in a dilemma. My job allowed remote work, but Brian's didn't. I proposed staying behind to care for Henry until he was better. Sandra, not wanting to impose, initially resisted, but eventually agreed to Brian and I's plan. I would stay with Henry, and Sandra would return with Brian once she recovered. So Brian and Sandra left, and I stayed behind with Henry. He was like a father figure to me, and I was determined to see him recover. "I'm sorry you're stuck with me," Henry apologized. I assured him it wasn't a burden, and that his recovery was my priority. I devoted myself to Henry's care, following the doctor's advice meticulously. I massaged his legs nightly, ensured he had a balanced diet, and managed my work in between. Henry couldn't move his legs, so I paid extra attention to his physiotherapy needs. Despite missing Brian, I found solace in Henry's improving health. Our conversations filled the gap, keeping me connected with my husband during this challenging period. One day, as I was busy in the kitchen, Henry called out to me. Normally, he would sit quietly in his wheelchair, often engrossed in a book, so his urgent tone caught me off guard. I rushed to his room, worried. He needed help adjusting his wheelchair. "Of course, Henry," I said, moving to assist him. But I noticed something different in his expression, a certain sparkle in his eyes. "Something feels different today, Mary." "I want to try something," Henry said, his voice laced with determination. I watched, my heart pounding, as he gritted his teeth and focused on his legs. There was a faint but noticeable effort as he tried to move them. "Be careful, Henry," I cautioned, afraid he might overexert himself. To my amazement, Henry's legs trembled slightly and then lifted a bit off the ground. I was filled with a mix of hope and excitement. "Henry, you're moving your legs," I exclaimed. He continued to struggle, fueled by determination. With a significant effort, he tried to stand. Unfortunately, his legs couldn't support him, and he fell back into the wheelchair. "I tried, Mary," he said, a bit disheartened. I quickly reassured him. "You don't realize how incredible that was, Henry. You haven't been able to move your legs for so long, and today, you made progress. It's a huge step, and we'll keep working on it together. You're making me so happy." A small smile appeared on his face, and he thanked me for my support. From then on, our days were filled with dedicated physical therapy sessions. We both understood the road to recovery would be tough and long, but we were committed. As the days passed, Henry's strength and determination grew. "We've come a long way since you first moved your legs," I would often tell him, acknowledging his growing strength. Henry's face would light up with a mix of determination and gratitude each time, showing his appreciation for the progress we were making together. "Without your dedication and encouragement, I couldn't have made it," Henry often told me. Over the 2 weeks, his progress was more and more evident. With my support, he began to stand for short periods using a walker. The once distant dream of walking again started to become a reality. "Remember when you first tried to stand? And now, look at you, standing strong with that walker," I would say to Henry. "Yes, Mary, and it's all thanks to you. You believed in me, even when I doubted myself. Your strength and determination are inspiring. I'm just thankful to be part of this journey with you," Henry would reply, expressing his gratitude. One afternoon during our routine exercises, something incredible happened. Tears of joy filled his eyes. I was astounded. "Henry, you just took a step." "You're doing it," I exclaimed. Henry was equally amazed. "I can't believe it, Mary. I actually felt it." We shared a deeply emotional moment, celebrating this significant milestone. With time and continuous effort, Henry's progress was remarkable. Eventually, he managed a few unassisted steps. "This is it, Henry. You're walking on your own," I said, overjoyed. "Mary, I couldn't have done this without you." "You're my guardian angel," Henry replied, acknowledging my role in his recovery. As Henry grew more independent, our bond deepened. Our combined commitment and his determination highlighted how much love and support could impact recovery. We worked together, overcoming the challenges of his rehabilitation, one step at a time. With Henry now recovered, it was time for me to return home. I planned a surprise for Brian. "Henry, it's been an incredible journey. I'm proud of your progress. I have exciting news. I'm going back home now." "Brian doesn't know I'm coming, and I want to surprise him," I told Henry. "That's wonderful, Mary. You've been here through it all. It's time for you to be with your husband and be happy," Henry responded understandingly. "Thank you, Henry. I'll always cherish the time we spent together, and I'll miss you. But I'm also excited to be with Brian again," I said, feeling a mix of sadness and anticipation. On the day of my departure, Henry watched as I packed. "Mary, you've been like a daughter to me during this time. I'll miss having you here, but I'm happy for you and Brian," he said warmly. "Henry, you'll always have a special place in my heart," I replied, grateful for the bond we had developed. "I'll definitely visit you. Brian and Sandra will be thrilled to hear about your recovery," I promised Henry. Later that day, I arrived home to surprise Brian and Sandra. They were relaxing on the couch, sipping coffee, unaware of my return. "Surprise! I'm home," I announced. "Is that you, Mary?" Brian's face lit up with joy as he embraced me tightly. "This is the best surprise ever. I've missed you so much." "I've missed you too, Brian. It feels great to be back home," I replied, sharing in the joy of the reunion. Sandra looked surprised and happy to see me. "Oh, Mary, you're here. Does this mean Henry is?" "Yes, Sandra. Henry is completely fine and waiting for you at home," I informed her, which made her extremely happy. After exchanging pleasantries, I decided to freshen up. However, as I headed to the shower, I noticed something different about the house, but I was too tired to figure it out. After a refreshing shower, I walked into the bedroom and was stunned to find it empty. "Brian, Sandra, what happened to our furniture? Where is everything?" Brian and Sandra exchanged uncomfortable glances, and I sensed something was wrong. Their faces showed fear, and Brian seemed particularly uneasy. "Mary, we need to talk," Brian said. "What's going on?" I asked, growing increasingly concerned. Sandra broke the news. We sold the house, Mary. I was shocked. You sold the house? How could you do that without discussing it with me? Brian tried to justify. It was a good deal, Mary. We wouldn't have gotten that afterward. We needed the money. Money for what? You did this for yourselves? Did you betray our trust for your gain? I was devastated. Sandra interjected. That home was in my son's name. We can do anything we want. That doesn't give you the right to make such a decision without me. It was my home, my life, all gone, I said, heartbroken. Mary, we needed this change. It's for the best, Brian tried to explain. You don't care how I feel, do you? I made a mistake trusting you. You had a choice to include me in this decision, to respect my feelings, I said, feeling betrayed and hurt. I was in utter disbelief. I can't believe this, Brian. It's done, and now I have nowhere to go. They had bought a new place, leaving me essentially homeless. It wasn't just about losing a home, it was about the trust and communication in our marriage being completely shattered. Just a few months ago, I had my own home. And now, I was without a place to stay and had no savings. I reached out to friends for help, but didn't get any positive responses. Left with no choice, I decided to temporarily stay with Henry and then look for a new place. When I returned to Henry, he was shocked to see me back so soon. Mary, what happened? Henry, Brienne and Sandra sold my house without telling me. I have nowhere to go, and I feel so betrayed, I explained, my voice filled with sadness. I'm so sorry, Mary. I can't believe they did this to you. Your family and family should stick together. Henry comforted me. But now I'm homeless and don't know where to turn, I said, feeling lost. Mary, don't worry. You can stay here with me. This is your home as much as it is mine, Henry offered kindly. Thank you, Henry. Your kindness means everything to me. I promise I'll find a new place soon and won't be a burden, I assured him, grateful for his support. The next day, I was crying in my bedroom when Henry came in. Mary, I need to tell you something, he said. What is it, Henry? I asked, wiping away tears. Stop crying. You're not homeless. Brian and Sandra are up to something, he said, a hint of a plan in his voice. Henry then called an old college friend and discussed a plan. After the call, Henry's phone buzzed. It was Sandra calling. He put it on speaker, suspecting it might be related to our plan. Hi, dear. Mary told us you're recovering well. Sandra's voice came through the phone, sounding casual. Henry and I exchanged glances, ready to put our plan into action. Sandra's announcement that she and Brian were planning to visit Henry soon struck a nerve. Henry, unable to contain himself, burst into laughter. Sandra, puzzled, asked, Henry, why are you laughing so hard? Because, Sandra, I never realized how selfish and, dare I say, amusing the woman I've lived with for so many years could be. Your tricks won't work here, Henry retorted. Mary and I joined in the laughter, signaling a significant shift in our relationships. It was clear that a new game had begun. So, you three are conspiring against me? Mary, did you go to my husband behind my back? That's disappointing, Sandra accused. She's like my daughter. She stood by me when I was gravely ill, and I'm grateful for her, Henry defended. What you and Brian did to her was wrong, and you're going to learn from it. Dad, I'm your son, remember? You might be pleased that your friend made us leave the house, but we still have Mary's house. We can buy it back if we want, Brian chimed in defiantly. If you think it's that simple, then go ahead and try, Henry challenged him. Fueled by determination, Brian said, If we're going to make amends, I need to start somewhere. Let me call the owner of Mary's house. Brian quickly dialed the number of the person who had bought my house, hoping to negotiate its repurchase. After a few rings, the person answered, Hello, Brian. How can I assist you today? Hi, I'm Brian, and my mom and I used to live in the house that Mary owned. I understand you're handling the property now, and I would like to discuss the possibility of buying it back, Brian proposed. I'm here to help, Brian, the person on the other end of the line replied, opening the door for further discussion. Once, I need to tell you that I'm not the owner of this house. I'm just looking after it. If you want, I can give you the contact details of the real owner so you can talk directly. Yes, please. That would be great, he replied. The agent gave Brian the owner's phone number. Brian tried calling the owner many times, but the line was always busy. What's going on? The line's always busy. I'll keep trying, but it might take a while to get through. He kept calling, but we all knew his efforts were in vain. My son, maybe you should stop trying now, I suggested. Wait, I'm not giving up yet, but maybe you should listen to Henry, Brian responded. Why? Do you know the owner? No, I am the owner. We were shocked. How can you do this to us? I knew you were selling Mary's house while she was caring for me. I also knew Sandra wasn't really sick. She just wanted to avoid responsibility. I overheard your conversation in the hospital. How could you be so selfish? Henry revealed that as soon as he knew Brian was selling the house, he sent an employee to buy it. Now, you can't buy it back, not even for double the price. Why did you do this, Sandra and Brian? I thought we were a perfect family. Greed never helps, son. I wish your mother had taught you that. Brian and Sandra realized the seriousness of their mistake. They had lost everything because of their selfishness. I'm sorry, Mary. That's why I agreed to sell the house. Please forgive us. But I replied, he's not a child, Sandra. He broke my trust and our promise of love. I can never forgive him. Mary, please come back. I promise I won't let you down again. I looked at Henry, seeking his advice. Think carefully before you trust them again. Some people never change. I know, Henry. That's why I'm not going back to him. I have my own home and a loving father. I don't need anything else. I want to stay away from selfish people. Brian and Sandra realized arguing was pointless. They had tried to make me homeless, and now they were the ones without a home. I ended the call and looked forward to starting a new chapter in my life, free from selfish people. Life moved on, and I found peace in my independence. Henry was always there, a guiding light in my life. As for Brian and Sandra, they had to learn the hard way that selfish actions often lead to a lonely path. I often think back to those days, grateful for the lessons learned and the strength I found within myself. It was a tough journey, but it led me to a place of self-respect and contentment.